back in the 1870s, the United States railroad industry was exploding. Teams competed from all over the land to see who could lay rail the fastest. The key was to drive these steel stakes that held the rail lines into wooden timbers as fast as possible. These were held by a shaker using long tongs and surrounded by 3 burly guys that were sequentially swinging sledgehammers. Boom, 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 move to the next stake. That was what railroading was all about. Today I'm going to share with you the story, the legend of the most famous steel driver of all, John Henry. Way back when the United States was just busting out of her baby shoes, there lived a man named John Henry. Now, you won't find him in no history books because, well, he was just too big for those books. When you get right down to it, he was the most powerful, mightiest, doggone nation builder this country's ever had. I was there, and I can remember when John Henry was king of the railroad camps. I can remember him as clear as a Kentucky moon on an August night. So y'all gather around and listen up, and I'm going to tell you the story of John Henry. It said John Henry was born with a hammer in his hand. He growed so big, his arms were thick as oak stumps, and his chest burst out as big as a barrel. And there weren't nothing John Henry liked more than just swinging that hammer and singing his song. Well, one day, late in the summer, when John Henry was working on the Chesapeake and Ohio line, a stranger came into town. Now, this fella was all duded up and dressed to the nines, a real city slicker. And he drugged this huge contraption made of 6 kinds of steel that had dials and gauges and drills and hammers. And he said, my steam drill can drill steel 5 times faster than any man. Well, that feller weren't making no friends around here because nobody likes to hear that a machine can do its job. But then, folks started scratching their heads, looking, figuring, and thinking maybe, just maybe, it could. The crowd got so quiet, you could hear a ladybug yawn. Then, John Henry stepped forward. I'll die with a hammer in my hand for a machine beats a man. A man's a natural man. Man's better than a machine. A man's got a heart, a big beating heart. But a machine ain't got nothing but a soul of cold steel. Does that mean you're willing to compete with my machine? If that's what I gotta do, that's what I'll do. The contest was set for 2 days later, 9 o'clock in the morning. Folks came from all over the valley. They came walking and horseback and buggy, and even came on locomotive itself. At 9 o'clock, the official shot his gun up into the air. The contest had begun. The machine was on the right, lurched into the lead. It was a spurting and a gurgling and making all kinds of awful sounds. It was drilling holes in the ground as fast as buckshot. On the left was John Henry, flexing and sweating and swinging his hammer and singing his song. Clang hitting there, bang hitting there, keeping time to the song that the hammers he was swinging. Well, the sun rolled up and rolled back down. John Henry's hammers were so hot they were glowing like the sun itself. But the machine was still ahead. 4 o'clock, they were coming up the Big Bend Tunnel, and neck, went right inside. Folks gathered around to hear the contest going on. They heard that machine squealing and whining and screeching, sputtering and screaming like an alley cat. But over that awful sound, they heard the voice of John Henry, sweeter than summer corn. My name's John Henry. I'm a natural man. I was born in the morning with a hammer in hand. With my hammer and my skill, I can beat any steam drill. Well, at 5 o'clock, the official sounded again, a shot in the air again. The contest was over. The crowd hushed. Finally, the official came out, running, threw his hands in the air, and said, John Henry beat the machine. Well, whoo-wee! That crowd was yipping and hollering, and they're pleased as plum pudding that John Henry beat the machine. Then John Henry comes stumbling out of the tunnel, coughing and holding his gut like something bust inside. Walked out and just lay right down there on the ground. Friends, folks, you have to forgive me. I had to beat that machine, and I did. But now I'm going to my grave with my hammer in my hand. Well, John Henry had just whooped up on that machine, but there he lay, covered in coal dust from head to toe, hammer across his heart, lying cold as a pond on a windless day. John Henry up and died right there in front of all those folks. Some folks say that John Henry died of a broken heart because he knew that someday that steam drill was going to take the place of every man in the land, every steel driver in the land. Others say he just went into a long, deep sleep from which he ain't not yet awoken. Well, if you don't believe me, you can hear for yourself. Just go take a train, any train, at night, way out into the countryside where the moon is big and full and the wind is just right. And you can hear the wheels on that track back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like the beat of a drum. Well, by Jiminy, that's the sound that John Henry hammering the kingdom come. That's the sound that John Henry hammering his way back home.